Hey everybody! I finally have a copy of this deck. This is the Pam's Delight, which is Reall's new deck, the woman behind My Lucky Card. And I have to tell you, I have been waiting for this deck with bated breath since April 11th. I can actually pinpoint this. On April 11th, Simon of the Hermit's Cave had a Cup of Ketchup and Cards video called These Are a Few of My Favorite Things. And I was half listening to it as I was trying to, get some stuff done around the house. And all of a sudden I hear him say something about Reall's new deck. And I ran over to my computer and typed, Reall has a new deck? And he said, hey, we've got this new thing coming out. It's going to be called the Pam's Delight. It looks like it's really cool, has new coloring. And I hurried up and tracked it down to Reall's actual website and saw it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's try to get a copy of this. So that was April 11th, 2020, the year of our Corona times. And very shortly thereafter, I placed my order. It was fine. It was going to be shipped. And I think a week later, I got an email from Irina, Reall, saying, so Germany's not shipping to the United States anymore. Let's give it a few weeks and see what happens. And as we all know now, Germany was not a huge fan of sending things to the United States. I'm not even sure if they're sending things to the United States now. What ended up happening is after a month or two, I think it was about 6 weeks after that, Reall did cancel my order so that she could recreate stuff and eventually ship it through the Czech Republic's postal system. And that took forever. I think it was probably about 45 days that it was in process of being posted to me from the Czech Republic. And there were no updates at all during that time. It was just literally sitting there in the post office in the Czech Republic until about 9 days ago, when it finally got sent to the US in customs and lingered there for a couple days, and then finally got dispatched off to me. But it is here now. It exists. It is a deck that exists. It's in my life, and I'm so excited for it. I do have Reall's other decks. I've got her Pam's Vintage, which I think is her most popular. And then my favorite of the two, which is the Pam's Original, I always say this wrong, Pam's Tarot Original Art Only. These two decks, because I am in the United States, I did get through Thru Cards. She does offer them both on Gamecrafter, which is out of Wisconsin, and Thru Cards, which is out of Kansas. I did choose to go through the Thru Cards for these two because Irina did say that Thru Cards had her favorite cardstock between them and Gamecrafter. And I do have to admit, I like the cardstock of these two decks quite a lot. It's I think 310 or 330 GSM. I want to say 310. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But it has this nice linen. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there you go. You can probably see some of the linen effect there. It's got a nice spring to it. It is maybe on the more flexible side of things, but linen decks tend to be flexible anyway. So I've been quite pleased with this particular cardstock from Gamecrafter. It could be a lot worse. And these two decks are lovely, but I've been very interested to see how this will compare, seeing as it's the first one I've got from her European printer. I know that her European printer prints these on 330 GSM on a black core smooth. They call it a silk smooth card, so it's not going to be linen finish like the other two decks of hers that I've got. And I think it will be a little thicker. And I know that these are printed in Italy. And these boxes that her printer does are phenomenal. I thought that they were going to just be a couple layers of cardboard, but there's some padding here. They've got things folded around in such a way that there's some serious sightage going on here. These are actually a lot more sturdy than even the blue box decks that I have from the 1970s. So it's a paper box, but it's super sturdy, and I think it's gonna last a really long time. I really actually wish that all my decks of hers were in these boxes. They're fantastic. But yeah, so that is this particular box. We can see here that she is called the Pam's Delight. For whatever reason, she is capitalizing the L in Delight. Probably, if I think about it, I think this deck does play with light a little bit. As you can see here from the back, you've got these lighter colored centers, and then things kind of like have a gradation out to a darker edge. And I think that effect changes card by card, which I'm excited about. In large part because here with the Pam's Vintage, which is a lovely deck, everyone seems to love this deck. I'm a little ambivalent on it, but everyone else seems to love it. She uses the same filter, I guess, for each card. And so it kind of looks a little uniform when you're seeing every single card out. And each card has this little detail in the corner. I don't know if you can see that little scroll work, which I've personally found unnecessary. So yeah, if she is in fact like changing things out and kind of doing a different effect on each card, I think the overall effect on the deck will look really nice. But that's probably the light, because she's playing with light. This is a limited run of decks, I guess. There were only 32 decks printed, but she has 30 here. And you got to choose your number. So I chose 9, and she registered 9 for me, so that's why I've got 9 out of 30. Anything else I gotta say about this? This is sold out, this particular edition, and I don't think she's gonna have any more printed with the Italian printer. I believe I read on her website that the reason she went with 30 cards for this as opposed to, I think, 60 or so was the printing for the Italian printings for Pam's Vintage and Pam's Art only. I think she went with that because she still had, I guess she'd paid for a certain number of decks to be printed. And these other 2 decks she had, they just weren't selling very fast. So she used the printing she had left to make this. This is a test edition. She does say on her website that based off of feedback, she's gonna go and tweak different cards for a final printing, which will probably be done through Gamecrafter, just like these 2 decks are. Gamecrafter or drive-through cards, sorry. So I'm really excited to see what this deck is gonna look like in person. I couldn't wait, and I did see Simon of the Hermit's Caves walkthrough of this deck. But yeah, I guess in person it is. I do have to say, I am loving these backs. These are really cool. I'm a bit of a sucker for any back that's roses and lilies. But I think Irina did a fantastic job kind of shading things out with, you know, playing on these yellows, the different reds, and bringing this like blue and purple into the lilies is just, oh, it's so pretty. So this might be my favorite roses and lilies back that I've ever seen, which is frankly a little bit of high praise. So well done. Inside the box we do have the Hermit. I don't know why she made that choice. I know she did reach out to Simon of the Hermit's Cave to let him know about these decks, and I think she sent him a copy gratis. I personally think she picked this card to, you know, appeal to Simon, but I'm not mad about that at all. I think putting the Hermit in there is a lovely touch, and the way the blues and the purples work with these, I think is a great touch, so good on that. All right, cards. Let's do a quick, yeah, you can really see already how all the different cards have some different filters on them, and the overall deck does kind of make it, the overall effect does make the deck look a little bit unique. Let me just grab, this is the Pam's Vintage here, and you can see as you kind of flip through, like, it all looks very uniform, which it's fine, but yeah, having the same effect on everything is, you can tell it's a little bit more mechanical that way. I should actually probably do a proper flip through between these decks, but maybe we'll save that for another video because this is my first impressions. I love this. All right. Ooh, I think I've just noticed something. I know that on the Pam's Vintage, you can see a lot more of Irina's Photoshops, and she was a little bit more liberal with how much she added and took away from cards, but you can see here where she added a whole bunch of mountains down here, and you can tell it's an addition because she's used this like weird blur thing that is not on any of the original art at all, and she's just gone ahead and taken that away on this new one, which is nice. If you didn't know, Irina did take out all the titles and everything, and she did add some art here and there to, you know, make these texts borderless and to take away the titles. So I'm glad to see that she's revised some of that in the different decks, because stuff like this was super obvious that it wasn't original. I am very happy with this. One of my criticisms of the Rider Tarot is that the blues and the yellows can be very, very intense. This is the Art Only Fool. You can see just how bright this is, and it can get very overwhelming pretty quickly, especially if you're someone who's yellow sensitive, and many people are. It's very harsh for a lot of people's eyes. It is the color that every human eye can see most clearly, which is why all the caution stuff, at least here in the United States, is done with yellows. School buses painted yellow, that whole thing. So yeah, it's not a color that a lot of people find terribly attractive because it usually signals danger and things to that nature. So toning it down is a great step, I think. And this filter and the way she's brought it in here really helps knock that edge down in a very successful way. Have the same thing here with this, also a very yellow heavy card using that, you know, a similar filter, but you can see how it's different, right? See how much this one comes in and this one's more restricted towards the edge. So playing with those different, like how much of the center do we show, you know, it's nice. It's very nicely done. And this is great. I love seeing these teals around there and a little touch of purple here and there. So pretty. It's a little bit of purple coming in through the High Priestess's robes. I love that. This is nice. So the filter does kind of help disguise some of the Photoshop jobs, and this is another one where when Irina extended this and kind of took off the Empress title bar, she did use a little bit of a blur effect in through here, and I think it's way more obvious on this Pam's original. You can see how it blurs in there, and here having this on the Pam's Delight, having the filter that comes around, it's focusing your eye actually up here and less around this edge, so that Photoshop job, it just kind of becomes a little bit more subtle. Just kind of blurs right into the background and you don't notice it. So that's nice. I love how this effect showed up on the Emperor. Yeah, you can tell that it's different colors here. It's not like the same filter. It's, you know, picking up different colors, and it really focuses your eye very nicely onto the brightest area of the card, which is, of course, you know, his beard and this upper part of the throne. I love what it's doing here, shading in these mountains on either side, and it's disguising the fact that the mountains are two different colors. So, aces. Again, like this color gradient, it's focusing your eyes right onto faces, which is great. Then you can just like take your time to see the rest of the detail. I can actually hold this deck. Oh, so pretty. I love, like, look, you can see some blues and teals coming in, and looks like there's been a yellow wash that's gone over this whole tree of fire. Very nice. I do kind of, I mean, I get that Irina is keeping the art untouched as much as possible, but on certain things like, see, you've got that red blob and the blue blob on Strength's face. Like, taking a moment to carefully edit those out, I think could have been a good choice. I mean, if you are going and editing a lot of art anyway, just brushing that out would have been a nice touch, I think. I love how these filters are on the blue cards, like bringing all these deep purples and blues in. Oh, it's just great. Looks like there's been a little bit of green added to the bottom here, which is nice. It kind of gives that a bit of a grounding. On a lot of cards, they actually don't shade in this part of the mountain that the hermit is standing on. So it all just looks like he's kind of floating there, which it's an effect. I don't know if it's an effect I appreciate. I think this is lovely. It almost looks like watercolor. And this is one of, she has two alternates here. So I guess if you thought, oh, that's way too much purple. She does have this alternate, which is a more blue version, which is also very nice. But I think I definitely like this purple way more. It's doing something different with the art, which I appreciate, and it's just bringing in some more interest. This card, when you just look at it in a normal, very traditionally colored RWS deck, it is very blue and white, and that's about it. So bringing that bit of purple in there is really good. I love this. The Hanged Man can be very stark. It's just got a very solid gray background, but bringing that gradation in here and making it a gray one, it's really drawing your eye right into the center of this card and making some nice texture that's, I think, needed for this background. This was a card I was a little bit scared how it would look because it's such a busy card as is. But I think it was pretty successful. It doesn't look like there's too much gradient happening. It's very close around the edge of the card. It could maybe have been slightly closer to the edge of the card, perhaps. No, maybe not. It's kind of keeping everyone where it needs to be, so good job. Ooh, this is beautiful. Very atmospheric the way it's done up. I like how there's this edge of orange in on the sunset. That's great. Ooh, I am loving this. It's like full of hellfire. Like if you were going to be in hell and the only illumination was going to be that of fire, like I think that it would actually look a little bit like this. Very nice. This is based off of Roses and Lilies, and the Roses and Lilies tower does show a lot more of this flecking through it. I kind of wish that it had been retouched in a way to intensify the black as opposed to lighten it. There's a lot of yellow going on through here, and it should be a pretty dark card as is, very dramatic. But I do appreciate bringing in the yellow a little bit. I like how the clouds here have been shaded. Those are great. Oof, that is beautiful. I love this dark, deep blue. It makes it look way more like a night sky, which is definitely needed for the star and the moon. Oh, great. Absolutely great. You could have even gone darker blue here, much like the star. I mean, I appreciate that they're not identical, but it would have helped carry the idea that this is night a little bit more. I do like that there's some nice shading with some purples going on in the towers, and look, like the inside edge here of both towers is more illuminated, which is how it would normally happen in a real situation. The photoshopping here in the water is a little bit patchy. might have needed a little bit of like redrawing some of these lines to disguise the edges. You can see it, but it's fine. Oh, okay. Interesting. I don't know if I would have gone with that effect of darkening this card, especially when you compare it to the moon and the star, because these are nighttime cards. This is a daytime card. And having the darker blue, even though it's closer to the edge than it is on either of these cards, kind of removes the night effect that you would get with these. I do like bringing in the purple. I think that that's quite pretty. And I like how having the darker purple around here kind of gives that card a strong anchor. And it does do a nice job of disguising the blurry Photoshop extension that was done to the horse, which is not Reall's most successful expansion. But maybe a little bit more of the light blue to make this more of a day card would have been nice. Definitely looks like there's a lot more purples that have been brought in towards the bottom as opposed towards the top, which is great. I think that it's weird. I love that effect, but I think that if you didn't know this card, seeing less of the gray tone on the skin would make you not realize that they were dead if you didn't already know. The zombie people need to be pretty pale. I don't know how I feel about that. I love it. I think it looks great. I know that these are supposed to be, you know, people rising from their coffins. And they definitely don't have the same complexion as the angels, so I guess it still carries. I'm just being nitpicky. Ooh, okay, let me go back here to this. If she's colored the world in this way, then I definitely appreciate the Wheel of Fortune being done up in purples more so than I do the alternate card, because I think that the world and the wheel need to kind of bookend each other in ways, and I think that this coloration does that pretty nicely. Similar but different. This is another one of the alternates where you've got a blue version, but I love this purple. I'm glad that there's a lot of purple in with these blue cards. It helps break that intensity quite a lot. Very nice. This one maybe could have used a little bit more blue, actually. It's getting very dark, and yeah, the central figures on this are a little bit more broad than they would be for something like this, where it's actually quite tight in the center. This one might need a little bit more of a lightning effect. But this is quite successful. Just enough on the edges to kind of keep things toned with the rest of the deck, but also kind of bringing some new interest into the art. Ooh, and this is nice. This actually could have gotten a little bit more broad into the center, because, you know, this is your central figure, and he's actually a little off-center. But, you know, this is kind of a more night time, and bringing that darker bit in a little bit more could have sold that night aspect a little bit more. I love how this purple has changed this card a little bit. This can be really, really monochromatic, especially with some of the newer Rider decks where they even change the color of the roofs to match the color of the buildings, which, why? It just becomes this wash of yellow that way. So seeing some more color here is always appreciated. And I love the peaches that happen down here. This is lovely. Look how there's this halo of light around this figure. That's great. The halo also extends up here. Look, you can see this little ridge of light around these, which is great. So that way it's not just like a layer that's being put on over things. It's done thoughtfully. This, I think, sells night very well. Look at all those purples brought in here. Oh, it's so nice. Pretty solid. I like this. I like it a lot. It's pretty. Is this too heavy though for a rainbow? It's edging the card a little bit towards night, but I love the peaches and the reds and the pinks that are brought in down here. That's one I might think on a little bit. This is quite pretty. I love the lilacs playing with the pinks. Also very nice. This one might be getting a little bit busy. There's so much stuff happening here in the central figure. She's got this highly textured robe. I don't know if you necessarily need this much color and gradient coming into the center, but it is nice. This one I think works out. Yeah, you can see that there's even more gradient coming in here, but that lightness in the center here kind of keeps things balanced. Hardly looks like there's any filter on this, which is probably good. It's a card where everything's kind of pretty full to the edge as is. This is nice. I do kind of like seeing this stronger gradient on the grays. The gray backgrounds of the pentacles have never been my favorite. And I do kind of like seeing a little bit of that texture in here. It just helps bring some life to some pretty boring colors. Very pretty. It almost looks like she kind of like amped the purple aspects of these colors here a little bit more, which is great. Really nice purple hill in the background. I'm glad that the effect hasn't really been terribly brought in because this is a super busy card. So just enough to keep it tonal with the rest of the deck. I really wish that she'd been able to find a way to like make some of these flowers come down a little bit more so it wasn't just an edge of flower, but that would have been pretty tricky with Photoshop to make it look authentic. That's great. Oh, what pretty red. Very nice. Oh, I was actually worried that this would get super, super busy, but it's just enough. Ooh, that's dramatic. I love that. Ooh, now she's playing here with shadow. I think realistically, if there was going to be shadow on this, you'd get some shadow from the figure as well, not just the swords. But I love the X that this kind of creates. This is a card that needed drama in a big way. I love seeing some of this darker stuff. It could have even gotten darker yet. But that's fantastic. Looks like there's even a little bit of shadow on each of these swords. That's great. Looks a little ominous. I like it. I like how nice and rich blue this gets down at the bottom. That's great. This is a little bit like that tower. I think that it could have actually gone blacker and as opposed to having this like yellow coming from the center in some capacity. In the swords, it even makes it look a little green, which I think kind of makes it look a little muddy. But this is nice. It looks more like a sunset here coming out that way. More intentional. I love these rolling hills. If you're going to do some Photoshop and cleaning up, this is another thing that I personally would appreciate seeing cleaned up. I've never liked the green ponytail on the Page of Swords. That's nice. I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more lighter tones here in this hand. It's kind of blurring in with the background very strongly. Just maybe like amping that to be white or something a little bit solid as opposed to this gradation, I think could have been useful. I like this and I don't like this. It's such a strong yellow here, and it is very bright, that being so dark on the edges doesn't look entirely natural, but oh, it's not bad. It's just something striking me is a little off about this one. And this one looks so pale right in through here. You almost want the line work to be a little darker. I love this texture. This is cool. The wands can be so boring with their very, very blue backgrounds that I'm liking what I'm seeing here with a little bit of like yellows in on this kind of scrubby texture and fading into some purples. It's really cool. This is a great one. I love this like red and peach in through the cliff here. This is nice. This particular card I think is the most boring in the entire deck. It's definitely the most pippish. But taking that strong blue background and giving it a very dark purple edge, and not like bringing it into the center too much, really frames this very well. And I think I'm seeing a little bit of play with shadow here, which I don't know what it would be shadowing against, because this is supposed to be sky. But the effect does make the wands stand out a little bit more, which is good. And it brings some more texture and contrast into the card. So I'm not hating this one at all. Ooh, got some shadow play down here. Got some shadow down here too. I like that. I really like this. That's a nice like cerulean blue. Here I guess we've got more teal tones. Very cool. And then our two extras. Well, that was very fun for me. I'm gonna continue to think about this deck a little bit and see if there's like other cards that, you know, could have stood for a little bit of an adjustment to the filter or whatever. But it's a lovely deck, and I think that it is definitely it might be my favorite of all of Reall's decks. I do love me that Pam's original, but this really brings something new to the decks in a way that I think actually the Radiant Wise Spirit does, without necessarily photoshopping every single aspect of those cards. And it's also using the Pam A line artwork I like way better than the Pam B that Radiant Wise Spirit does. Maybe I should compare this and the Radiant Wise Spirit. That's a thing that I will put on my back burner. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.